Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Sergeant Carol Segman. We are honoured to welcome Mr. Manuel Gonzalez Sanz, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Costa Rica, accompanied by His Excellency Jose Jairo Hernandez Milian, Ambassador of Costa Rica to Australia. We are also pleased to welcome the representatives of the Australian College of Nursing, the Rivers and Ranges Community Leadership Program from Victoria, and Mrs. Rhonda Van Zeller, President of the New South Wales War Widows Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL and Services Club Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools: Grahamstown Public School from Raymond Terrace, Stroud Public School and Stroud Road Public School, Hay Public School, Golongolock Public School and Bilrul Public School, all from New South Wales. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier.
Catapult party, rest on!
Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Catapult party, attention! Catapult party, present, shoulder, arms.
Thank you, students. You may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Sister Florence Rebecca Casson, who was killed during the Second World War. Florence Casson was born on the 6th of March 1908 in Rackenbill, Victoria, to Henry and Mary Casson. She trained as a nurse at the Royal Adelaide Hospital, completing her examinations in 1934. After this, she worked in various country districts in South Australia before becoming matron at the Pinaroo Hospital. She was working here when she enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 10th of March 1941, joining the Australian Army Nursing Service. Casson was appointed to the 2nd 13th Australian General Hospital and sent to Singapore later that year, but was in Malaya in 1942 when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Once the fall of Singapore became inevitable, most Australian personnel were evacuated from the island. Casson was one of 65 Australian nurses who left Singapore aboard the Vina Brook on the 14th of February. 2 days later, the ship was bombed by the Japanese and many lives were lost. Sister Casson was severely wounded by the blast, which damaged both of her legs, possibly breaking one. She was treated by her fellow nurses before being helped into a raft. Others joined the lifeboats, and those who could swim made for the nearby Banker Island. Casson's raft reached the beach and she was tended to. Her wounds were serious and appeared to have caused nerve damage. Some of the survivors travelled to the nearest port to formally surrender to the Japanese, but 22 Australian nurses remained on the beach to tend the wounded. On the morning of the 16th of February, a group of Japanese soldiers arrived and in 3 stages ordered the wounded around a headland where they were killed. The rest of the survivors were ordered to walk into the sea. Casson, unable to walk, was supported by her fellow nurses. When the water reached the nurses' waists, the Japanese opened fire with machine guns. Of the 22 Australian nurses ordered into the sea, all but one were killed, including Florence Casson. She was 33 years old. Sister Casson is remembered on memorial plaques at the Pinaroo Hospital, at Royal Adelaide Hospital, and on the obelisk at Pinaroo. A display in her honour is featured in the Pinaroo Museum. Sister Florence Rebecca Casson is commemorated on the Singapore Memorial, and her name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, along with some 40,000 others from the Second World War. Her photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sister Florence Rebecca Casson, who gave her life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Catapult party, present up! Catapult party, shoulder of.
Lest we forget.
Catapult party, outwards, turn. Catapult party, quick, march.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.